There is a city that in prophecy carries the weight of catastrophe. Budapest. In 2 weeks, in that same city, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will meet. After a 2-hour phone conversation, the American president announced the meeting. Declared objective to resolve the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The world breathes a sigh of relief. Finally diplomacy. Finally hope for peace. But for those who know the prophecies of ALOIS IRLMAIER, this announcement does not bring relief. It brings terror. Because the Bavarian Seer, decades ago, prophesied exactly this scenario. A meeting in Budapest, between the American president and the Russian one. And according to his visions, this meeting will not be the beginning of peace. It will be the immediate prelude to an unprecedented catastrophe. What will happen during this meeting according to IRLMAIER's prophecies? And above all, is this meeting that will take place in 2 weeks, the event prophesied by the Bavarian Seer? Today we will discover not only what IRLMAIER really said about Budapest, but also why his last words before dying were, "I am happy to die now, because I don't want to experience what I see coming." If these topics are important to you, help us spread them. A like can do so much, as well as your subscription to the channel. Thank you from the heart. Born on June 8, 1894 in Upper Bavaria, ALOIS IRLMAIER was not a simple dowser from the village of Frelising, where he died on July 26, 1959. He possessed extraordinary gifts. Approaching a water source, he felt a tingling in his fingers, and his veins dilated. But what really distinguished him was his being a seer. In 1928, he had his first prophetic visions. During World War II, his reputation grew enormously when he managed to accurately locate numerous missing persons and predicted the impact sites of bombs. He had become a source of hope for families affected by the war. In 1947, he was accused of fraud and charlatanism. At the court of Laufen, 5 witnesses confirmed the truthfulness of his interpretations. He was acquitted for lack of evidence, and the court stated that it could not call him a charlatan. IRLMAIER also amazed the judge himself, accurately describing his wife, whom he had never met. Another extraordinary aspect is that he also managed to predict his death, saying this phrase in his last moments of life. "I am happy to die now, because I don't want to experience what I see coming." These words should make us reflect deeply. What had he seen so terrible as to prefer death, rather than live it? Listening to these last words of the seer, we ask for the protection of the Most Holy Virgin Mary, writing in the comments, "Protect me, Mother." Amen. We begin our journey into ALOIS's visions, understanding why he didn't care to experience what he had seen. The German Konrad Adelmayer had the opportunity to interview ALOIS IRLMAIER several times, recording numerous of his prophetic predictions and publishing them in a book in 1950. But it is fundamental to distinguish between what IRLMAIER really said and what has been handed down over time. All of IRLMAIER's statements became known only after his death, or were reported by journalists or authors in newspapers or books. It is not known whether this reproduction corresponds exactly to what IRLMAIER said, or whether it was reformulated. The memories of eyewitnesses can fade or change unconsciously over the years, especially when the publication occurs many years later. Having clarified this, in 1947, Erlmayer had prophesied the assassination of a high international official as the triggering event of the Third World War. When he was questioned in 1959, the year of his death, if he still maintained this prediction, he replied, "Absolutely nothing has changed. Only because it has approached, I see it much more clearly. And I also see the two men who killed the third high official. They were paid by other people. I think it will be in the Balkans, but I cannot say it exactly." It is crucial to note that Erlmayer himself was not sure of the precise location of this assassination. He said, "I think it will be in the Balkans," and not, "It will definitely be in the Balkans." But there exists an extraordinary document that changes everything. A letter written personally by Erlmayer to a friend of his. This letter, written in Bavarian dialect, was purchased at auction and contains a passage of capital importance. "Dear Ree, I write to you only briefly, because I have seen where it comes from. When two big pieces sit together in Budapest, then one would like to believe that now finally it will get better. But beware, this is only a calm before the storm. It seems that they are limiting themselves, but nothing happens. Then it goes fast, faster than people can imagine." Particularly noteworthy is that Erlmayer explicitly mentions Budapest, while for other events, he was uncertain about the location. This suggests that some visions were clearer than others, and Budapest was very clear in his mind. An eyewitness, who appeared under the pseudonym of Gartner, would have reported, "Peace Conference United States and Russia in Budapest. The American president is assassinated." After which the vice president immediately declares war on Russia. Practically at the same moment, enormous quantities of Russian tanks are already moving towards the west. But here a problem arises. This prediction says that there should be military clashes between Russia and the United States before the conference. However, the current situation is completely different. The current war takes place between Russia and Ukraine, two states that in the past were both part of the Soviet Union. The United States is not directly involved in the fighting, but supports Ukraine. Another witness, Leo Degard, would have reported, "Due to a lightning attack by Russian units on Belgrade, it comes very quickly to a conference in Budapest. On that occasion, a high official is assassinated, probably the youthful-looking American president." Here it speaks of a young president, which does not correspond to Trump, who is 79 years old. Therefore, it could refer to a subsequent time sequence. However, there exists an extraordinary and little-known testimony. In the spring of 1991, a scholar of Erlmayer received a letter from the son of Gustelnoff, a man who in 1950 had had close contacts with Erlmayer because he had built him a well. The son recounted that his father had kept a note handwritten by Erlmayer in 1953, with a few lines, on folded paper. The note had then disappeared, perhaps during a move, but the content had remained imprinted in memory. He quoted, "It begins where there are old saints, where the sun burns, and the air is full of restlessness. Powers that live far away interfere, and then it goes fast. It is as if a net were being tightened. And then the crucial part about the conference. In Budapest they sit at the table. The Soviet and the American. It is a last conversation, before the storm. They look at each other, but no one really sees the other. As soon as the conversation is over, the situation precipitates. The Soviets are prepared. It doesn't take days. The tanks arrive as if from nowhere, as if they had always been there. Knopf's son recounted that his father had never understood why Erlmaier was so sure precisely of Budapest. But the seer was categorical on this point. He also said that when everything begins, people will not recognize it with their head, but with their gut. They will instinctively feel that something terrible is about to happen. When asked if Erlmaier had named a year, he said no, but had given a clue. It is in a year when winter is not winter, where the weather is upside down. Erlmaier's complete vision of the Third World War is of chilling clarity. It begins like this. Everyone talks only about peace, shalom. It is then that it happens suddenly. A new war breaks out in the Middle East. Large hostile naval fleets face each other in the Mediterranean. Erlmaier saw two individuals carry out the assassination. The first is a man of color, short in stature, while the second is slightly taller and with light hair. Both were paid by other powers to carry out the murder. After the assassination of the high-profile figure, powerful armies advanced towards Western Europe with incredible speed. The population, seized by panic, flees towards the west. The Russians proceed day and night. Alois saw a yellow rain fall and form a strip from the Golden City, Prague, to a city in the bay. Inside the yellow strip, everything died. It was impossible to cross it without losing one's life. 3 German cities will disappear. One in the south sunk in the mud, one in the north sunk in the water, the third destroyed. Paris undergoes destruction, set on fire by the residents themselves. In Italy, a religious revolution breaks out. The Pope will flee in disguise by sea. Part of England will vanish when an object falls into the sea. During the war, a sign will appear in the sky, the crucifix with the wounds, visible to all. At the beginning of 1959, Erlmaier predicted a day during the war when everything will become dark. Hail will arrive with lightning and thunder, and an earthquake will shake the earth. It will not be possible to leave the house. The windows will have to be sealed. Anyone who breathes the dust that comes from outside will have a cramp and will die. Everything will pass after 3 days of darkness. So, is the announced meeting between Trump and Putin in Budapest in 2 weeks, the one prophesied by Erlmaier? We must be prudent and analytical. According to the overall coherence of numerous prophecies, the great events must arrive during a summer, during which we will be able to cross rivers on foot. Furthermore, Erlmaier speaks of a Russian lightning attack that precedes the conference, something that has not yet happened. He also speaks of the assassination of American presidents, and since Erlmaier's death in 1959, only John Fitzgerald Kennedy has been assassinated. Perhaps Trump will be assassinated in the coming months or years, before the outbreak of the Third World War. What is certain is that this meeting in Budapest represents an important prophetic signal. It is not yet the spark of the Third World War, but we are quickly taking that path. Erlmaier said he had seen the number 9 3 times, and did not understand what it meant. He only knew to say that the third 9 brought peace. In the end, after all the atrocities, there will be a long and happy period. Whoever lives then will live well. But before more people will die, than in both world wars put together. We have understood that events will precipitate quickly. The time of spiritual preparation is running out. Write in the comments the name of a loved one whom you would like to consecrate themselves to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, to be protected during difficult times. We will pray together for every soul named. While our attention will be focused on Russia and Ukraine, let us not forget that the situation between Israel and Palestine could precipitate again. A girl received prophecies from Jesus, which she transformed into paintings. One of these speaks to us precisely about the situation in the Middle East. If you want to know more, click on the video that has appeared on your screen. May God always illuminate your path. See you in the next video.